I never forget something that my mentor, the late Reverend Dr. Samuel DeWitt Proctor, used to tell me. He would say that whenever you read scripture, acknowledge your bias, then put your Jesus glasses on. And in quasars and pulsars and black holes, there is something beyond time and space that you and I can't even begin with our finite minds to comprehend.
Right.
And it's the dwelling place. So what we have to do is we got to be very careful. Yeah, thank you, God, for this revelation. We got to be very careful not to get the essence of our spiritual development from online. Due to the fact of disinformation that is becoming even more prevalent in today's culture.
Good evening, family. Welcome to another CAYA broadcast. I am your host for tonight, as customary, Reverend Eric Edwards, and it is my absolute joy to be here with you all on this evening, not by myself, but with some very intelligent and bright and beautiful women on this broadcast. It is my pleasure, as Pastor would say, to be the thorn amongst the bushes and the roses. Really honestly, my honor to really be sitting here with some intelligent women who know their stuff about the topic that we're going to talk about on tonight. So as you see, last month we had asked the pastor, with Pastor, as we put him on the hot seat. That's right. Us young adults came together. We asked pastors some questions that we honestly had wonderings about, and we want to thank Pastor for joining us. And here today, we're going to be talking about a very special topic. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we want to make sure that we are not only sowing spiritually, but that we're going to sow into you mentally and physically and emotionally. We want you to grow to be the being that God wants you to be holistically, which means we're going to talk about some very necessary stuff that you need to hear. But before we go into deeper waters, I just want to warn you that this is going to be an impactful and deep topic. But before we begin, I want to issue a warning that this something may cause you to confront some emotions that you may have not dealt with, or it may bring back memories of some things that you may have encountered in your past. Therefore, at any point, if you need to step away and collect yourself, do it. Remember, here at CAYA, we are here to help you grow. We are not here to harm you. We are here to help you grow into the holistic being that God wants you to be. So again, I'm Reverend Eric Edwards, and I want to introduce our panelists on tonight. Well, I'll allow them to introduce themselves. So how about you, Mrs. Felice Hightower Britt? Will you introduce yourself? Just kind of give us your background.
Sure. So I'm Felice Hightower Britt. I have my own private practice, which is Resiliency Therapeutic Services. I'm also a certified life coach. With my coaching business, I am the Be Big Life Coach. And I also have a nonprofit, which is called States of Wellness. I could go on and on and on, but I'm also known as Real Talk with Felice. So you stop me.
No, talk as much as you want.
So I'll stop there.
Well, welcome. Thank you for being here tonight. How about you, David? Introduce yourself.
Hello. My name is David Austin. I am a licensed clinical social worker associate and a licensed clinical addiction specialist associate. I currently serve as a therapist here in the Charlotte community, servicing marginalized communities. And I currently serve as an educator, so I'm kind of here, there, doing all of the things.
And you all are familiar with one of our CAYA team members, Tiara. Tiara, how you doing, sis?
I am doing well. I am excited about tonight. Happy Wednesday, everyone. And I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Yes. So thank you all for being on this evening. Again, we're talking about coping with betrayal trauma. To give you an introduction and then to censor it as far as why we're talking about it. Right? Talking about coping with betrayal, not trauma, but coping with betrayal. In other words, we're discussing the reality of betrayal in our lives, how it manifests, how we may feel when we may have been betrayed or have betrayed others. Right? It's important because betrayal is something that everybody encounters. But it's also something that we don't really discuss often. right? When it happens to us, or when we've been in the position of being the betrayer, we kind of don't talk about it. And that's what we want to do on tonight, right? So we're, you know, be vulnerable, right? So you viewers in the chat, we invite you all to respond. That's why we also have two therapists here who are talented, gifted, brilliant, but who also is going to help us to grow on this evening. So y'all ready to dive in? Let's dive in. So we're going to start off with our first part of just trying to lay out some definitions, some terms, and maybe like some real world scenarios of how this stuff can play out. So the first term is betrayal. Deja, just to start off with you, what would you define as betrayal?
I would define betrayal as the opposite of loyalty. It's very hurtful, it's painful, sometimes it's even hard to bounce back from. So I would encourage you to look at the definition of loyalty and how do you define loyalty, and if betrayal would be the opposite of that.
Wow, wow. And I think that's absolutely true. When I was, you know, down here with these brilliant women, so I had to do some reading. That's actually what I encountered in one of my readings. I actually came across a British philosopher, and he, you know, talked about how betrayal it happens when a person is in a state of reliance on a person, on another person. And he defines it as betrayal as a sense of being harmed by the intentional actions or omissions of a person who was assumed to be trusted and loyal, right? Friend, relative, partner, colleague, or companion. So, Mrs. Felice, your opinion, you know, how would you define betrayal after hearing this or hearing that? You kind of agree with that definition?
I agree with all the definitions, and you know, I'm a little bit more technical, and I looked it up, and so, and it says that betrayal is an act of deliberate disloyalty, a breach of trust. And then there's different versions of what that can look like, and the different terms of what betrayal can look like, so that people can identify a little bit better. So you let me know.
Wow, wow.
Like, you know, so I'll give you an example. It could be personal betrayal, right? That could be around a family member. It could be romantic betrayal, which includes infidelity. It could be professional betrayal, making confidence around the workplace. It could be political, and some of the words that people would kind of use around that would be backstabbing, by acting against them secretly. It could be double crossing, which means deceiving and betraying someone with who you supposedly were collaborating with. It can also be perfidiousness, which is a deliberate breach of faith and trust and treachery. So hopefully, you know, I mean, it's unfortunate, right, that there's so many people who are going to be identified with one of those terms or one of those instances of where betrayal can come about.
It's so multifaceted, right? You listed so many different aspects of betrayal that I've never considered, right? Spiritual, political. Tia, have you know, what trends are you seeing in the community? Or have you had some friends who may have experienced some of these, you know, forms of betrayal, right?
Well, first, I love how you broke it out, because when we all say betrayal, we just look at it as just a one-term thing. But it, like you said, it's under one umbrella, but it's just different tiers. So I feel like for sure, those that are watching, all of us can relate to personal betrayal. We all have been betrayed in some form or fashion, close to home. So I feel like out of all of them, everyone can pretty much relate to that one. Really the most.
Yeah, and that's why we're talking about this, right? I won't go to that question just yet. I'll say it because the question just started. But we got to keep on moving. So, in doing some research and then discussion with the guys in the CAYA team, like there's a difference between the betrayal and disappointment. What's the difference between betrayal and disappointment? Right? Because every time somebody has done something to us, that doesn't necessarily constitute as a betrayal. But also, we do need to recognize when we've actually been betrayed or when we've just been disappointed. Like, so what would you all say are the differences between betrayal and disappointment?
Well, I think disappointment is the result of the betrayal, right? So it's the sadness of an unfulfilled promise or the breaking of one's trust would cause you to be disappointed. So it's what happens when you're betrayed. It's not necessarily correlated.
Okay.
It's like betrayal is the action and disappointment is the effect of it.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I like to agree with you on that too. I think a lot that kind of comes with disappointment is because we have these high expectations, or we have these expectations for people, and then perhaps when betrayal takes place and they don't deliver, it just causes us to just go haywire.
Right. And you know, it's I like what you said, right? That we put these expectations on humans, and we forget that at the end of the day, we are engaging with humans who are flawed, and we're all in need of a Jesus, right? And so, if you are not being mindful and operating right, or staying close to the vine, you're subject to all kinds of things, right, that can disappoint other humans.
Wow. Wow. So in other words, right, you're placing people on pedestals.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And would you say that we're kind of setting ourselves up for it without unknowingly doing it?
I think in some cases, yes. And let me just give you the definition of pedestal. Because I looked it up. But okay, pedestal. So if you want to look at the technical term of pedestal, it's a base or support on which a statue or column, right, stands on. We're not talking about that. We're talking about idolizing or admiring people excessively, often to the point of overlooking their flaws or human qualities, which can lead to unrealistic expectations and disappointment when the person's flaws or mistakes become apparent. And so sometimes we can do that with people that celebrities, or we can do that even with our pastor. People who we know and esteem that have done things, right, to get them to a certain status. And so we look at these people in awe, forgetting that these people just, and that is possible for you too. And so we esteem them so much so, right, that we forget that they also have to answer to a God, and that they also are human, that they are subject and prone to mistakes, that 9 times out of 10, we're all going to disappoint somebody somewhere in our lives. And so that's where grace comes in, right? A lot of grace. And so, you know, that pedestal is a really rocky place that we put people on, and we have to be mindful not to do that.
I love, I just want to kind of piggyback off of what you said too. So, as a response to that, you have to ask yourself, like, what is my relationship with grace? Because even with we're all children, right? So sometimes we can put our parents on pedestals, and one time they make one mistake, it's kind of like you're just like an enemy. Now you betrayed me, or you did something that you did something that is not in my realm of honesty, loyalty, and all the things. So it's almost like then it kind of gives you this roller coaster effect of your emotions, and you can't figure out why you can't get out of it.
Mm. Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's absolutely true. I mean, I remember the first time I had to kind of shatter my pedestal, right? Because I mean, it's like a awakening of like, wow, these people are human too. I'm the one that just put in a place where they never asked to be. I think that's one thing we're not being realistic about when we have these people who are on pedestals. They never asked to be in the position that we place them in. And I think, you know, again, extending grace to ourselves, extending grace to them, but knowing that we're all the same, right? We're all human, like you said, Mrs. Felice, that we're all children, right? Nobody's higher than the other. Yeah.
What I'd like to add too is that what you can do instead of putting people on pedestal, you can have respect, or reverence for their accomplishments, right? And you can admire that, and that can kind of tone down the pedestal.
I like that. Yeah, having respect. Yeah. So how do you go about, you know, doing that to somebody you're trying to cling on to keep that space in place because you look up to them? How do you kind of bring it back down. What's the actual practical step to that? Just
Well, awareness, right? Awareness is key. Like we're doing right now. Awareness is saying that we're all human, we're all prone. But to also know that the people that you admire them for a reason. It's something about what they're doing that you either resonate with, might want to replicate and actually do yourself. And so instead of putting them on pedestals, ask them to be a mentor. Say, hey, I really admire you. I really, there's something about what you do I resonate with. And I just want to see and check and make sure that's something I'm interested in doing, right? So you can see the reality of what your life really consists of. So you can make a decision to say, I don't resonate with that, but you can still keep your reverence, you can still keep your respect because they did the work, right? But you're capable of that too. So a lot of times we look at people, put them on pedestals thinking that we're incapable of doing those very things, maybe in a different lane, but you're capable of them too.
Yeah, I think so. I'm actually creating a sermon on it right now. I love what you just said. It's this one character. I'm actually preparing it for youth worship service. His name is Hiram. He's in 1 Kings chapter 7. His name is only mentioned in just 2 verses. Solomon asked the king of Tyre, I need a person specifically for this. And it's Hiram. When you look at all the gifts that Hiram had, the building and engraving, as a perfect sermon, it's like Hiram in himself is worthy in his own being, right? He's needed as his authentic self. Although his name appears in 2 verses, he's not needed to be a King Solomon. He's not supposed to be where King Solomon is. He's supposed to be Hiram. Give the king is looking for you to build a temple of the Lord. Because Solomon, while he's credited with it, he just something he can do, right? But using that as a sermon to just say, like, you in yourself, you are capable. You can be the best version of you. Right? Nobody can be Eric Edwards better than Eric Edwards, right? Nobody can be Lisa Hightower Great or Deja or Tierra better than you all. So I really like how you said you just opened my mind. Now, start talking more about it.
I just want to add to that too. I think a lot of doing that too. You need to be vulnerable with yourself, acknowledging where you are, and because when you can acknowledge where you are, you can further identify where it is. Putting that person on a pedestal, identify what are those strengths, what are those things that these people embody, and say, okay, I admire this. This is where I want to go. So, how do I look at myself now to figure out how do I get there?
And maybe identify some issues that you have with your inner self on why you're putting them on that pedestal in the first place. Right? If it's something you're lacking and you're kind of clinging to them for, and that's the reason they're on this pedestal, kind of like doing the inner work to see why they're up there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so doing some self-reflection.
Right.
Wow, that's great. That's great. So let's parse out about 2 more terms, and then we're going to get to some of this juicy stuff.
Okay. This is juicy.
Deeper into the juicy stuff.
We just on the side. Okay.
Oh, no, this is all great. So triangulation. I think we've all been guilty of it. And sometimes we do it, not necessarily that we do it. It can kind of, I would dare say, become a defense mechanism for us.
So are you able to explain kind of, because I know a lot of people haven't heard that word.
Yeah. So I have the definition.
Oh, okay. all definition is directed that way.
So triangulation. Person uses a third person to mediate and or communicate with another rather than dealing directly with the person involved. Communication through a third party. Think of it as having a mediator. Conflict avoidance involves a third person to avoid direct confrontation. It could be manipulation, used to gain control and manipulate others, and create alliances, divisions that can lead to the formation of unhealthy alliances, fostering an environment of mistrust and rivalry.
Wow. So bringing somebody into the midst that don't belong. sometimes, I mean, to report cases, right?
So, like that's what I said, like a mediator. But a lot of times people do it who might be what we term as a passive aggressive, because they really do not like or shy away from conflict or confrontation. For whatever reason, they put a negative connotation on those things. And so instead of just coming to the person directly, they may bring in a third party that really may not have anything to do with the situation and can possibly make your situation a lot bigger than its original state.
So it is something like trying to get an ally to
An ally, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Where you're on like the opposing team.
Okay. So you're in an argument. We're in an argument. Didn't he do that? Remember when he did that and we was all going to the same place at the same time, and you said, "Don't even do that," and then but I'm talking to you now about this situation instead of just being like, "Be direct."
Right.
Is it possible that you don't do those things anymore because it really makes me feel disrespected? It makes me feel dismissed, and I'm having an issue with it. Can you help me with this? Instead of bringing her in on it, and so now it gets bigger than just dealing with it one-on-one with the person.
Yeah. And where does betrayal fall to that, right? Because I think,
I was gonna say, to piggyback off of that, I think a lot of that, when you think about triangulation, I think a lot of that kind of comes from people not really knowing how to really address the problems that they. So it's almost like, okay, because I can't do it, let me bring you. Let me drag Barney, like you got my back, right? So it's almost like going back to that level of vulnerability for you to be able to really understand that, so you can refrain from doing that, so you can address those things more direct. And then perhaps what betrayal kind of comes in with that, it's almost like, because you have already placed people in a group or on these pedestals and things that nature, kind of like, okay, well, let me get somebody else that I think is on my pedestal. So it's like, she got my back. So the two of us are forced, so we don't address you that way.
And it could also be betrayal because now you have somebody, a third party, that possibly knows something that they should not know, that possibly has an opinion of you that you did not know and wasn't necessary for you to know. So you could be betrayed on so many different levels by bringing in or doing triangulation.
In that example, Eric could experience betrayal because he thought y'all had a better relationship where you could come to him directly rather than dragging other people in it. So it's betrayal from different points of view.
Absolutely, yeah. Because I thought we were good.
Right.
I thought that you knew my heart, that you could come to me. Like, you didn't have to bring somebody else in. So that's possibly where the betrayal could come into.
Wow.
Communication is the one skill that we as humans suck at.
Yes.
And
Completely.
Completely.
It's so vital.
If we really just learn that skill, oh my gosh, we could skip so many lines.
Learn so many lessons in that vein.
Across so many different things if we just learn the art of communication.
Yeah.
And I know you guys see it every day with your clients, and you're like, the root cause is the lack of communication.
Just open your mouth and speak your truth in moments.
And I think the thing with that too, as people, we also communicate other ways too. So sometimes if we don't communicate with our mouth, we communicate with our bodies. Our bodies are shut down. We're very closed off and things of that nature. But we need to learn how to practice that and speak with our mouth.
So do you guys think self-awareness needs to be the first step before communication? Because like you said, everyone doesn't know how to communicate. So
You're
you
onto
gotta know
something.
yourself.
You're absolutely onto something. So self-awareness is up there too, right? Because without self-awareness, you can't identify the thing that you need to communicate.
Right.
You can't go
So
there.
you have to know and be aware of what your situation is. You also have to be aware of how it's making you feel, because that's what you want to communicate, right? You want to communicate the feeling, not necessarily the event. So I'll give you an example. By you bringing in that person, that made me feel betrayed. It made me feel hurt. I'm not mentioning the incident. I'm just taking ownership of my feelings.
What does that do? That helps you not to put that person or anyone on defense, because I'm owning how the situation made me feel. So you're going to be more open to engage with me because I didn't put you on blast.
Correct.
I didn't mention the situation. I'm just saying how the situation made me feel. And then I'm inviting you. Can you help me with this? Like, I'm not even sure if what I'm feeling is accurate, but I need your help because that's how I feel. And I just want to make sure that my feelings align with the facts. So can you help me? Right? And so you're going to be more open to that.
Wow. No, that is good, right?
That is good.
Well, we all got to learn how to communicate.
Right, yes.
I mean, because communication saves a whole lot of world of hurt sometimes. But it can help keep some of our relationships that's falling apart, keep it intact, right? If we just communicate in the proper way that we should be communicating in. So it's a skill that we all have to work on. I mean, talking to my therapist, she's like, yo, Eric, stop communicating, stop avoiding.
Yes.
I'm like, okay. So it's, definitely to improve on that. But last term, manipulation. Deja, do you have a definition for manipulation?
When I think of manipulation, I think about an individual essentially taking a problem that you may have and twisting it, and perhaps to their advantage. That's when I think about manipulation. In working with clients, a lot of times words are manipulated, actions are manipulated. A lot of things kind of come up with manipulation, and it ultimately hurts a lot of people.
I had someone tell me that it's a form of witchcraft, right? Because you're trying to use your deceptive methods to control an outcome.
Oh, okay.
And so that's never good. When you have love and relationships with people, they don't need to be manipulated. They don't need to be controlled. And you don't have to control an outcome with people you love.
Wow. So what would you all say then would be the difference of influencing and then manipulating?
Intention.
Intention.
Intention. If the intention is pure, I would say that kind of goes into influence. However, you can't persuade somebody to do something that's to your benefit.
Wow. Yeah.
And
That's good.
influence is something that naturally flows out of your gift, right? So whatever your gift is, you're going to influence your tribe, right? People are going to be influenced by you and the work that you're doing that God put on the inside of you.
Yes.
So it's a natural thing that will occur because of your gift and you operating in it. Manipulation is saying, I don't trust something, and so I feel I have to control it. And I don't think that if I do it the right way, it'll come about and happen the way I need it to happen.
Okay.
Wow. Wow.
Good.
Wow. So bending the other person, right, to get them to perform in that, partake in that action or to do what you need to be done, all for your own self gain. Wow. Wow. I think hearing you all, there's so many books I know that's probably written on how to use words, but just as a preacher, I mean, hearing you all, you make me want to read a book that's specifically talking about how I'm using words. So that when I'm in the pulpit, right, I'm not saying certain things or putting a sentence in a certain way that's then forcing upon people to do what I'm trying to argue for.
Wow, that's a good take, right? And I think that that's what a lot of people in this country are experiencing, right? We're experiencing people using words and the power of words to manipulate feelings and emotions, right? And to
Especially in a
sway
leadership position.
right, to sway perceptions and stuff like that, but they're using it in a way not for the ultimate good, but for their own
Personal gain.
Right.
personal gain. That's a
Kinda
really
goes
good
back to
point.
intention,
Yes.
Yeah.
Is the intention pure?
Yeah. And I would dare say that's probably a lot of reason why a lot of us won't be voting, right, in this election in 2024, because we're being manipulated into a certain way.
Right.
And as a result, right, I think that's what's going to cause,
People to
or
shut
that's
down.
what could cause, right, a certain candidate to be in a place that we're not wanting him to be.
Right.
Because we're not interested in going back, right? We're trying to progress forward.
So let me interject too with that. But we have to remember that God is sovereign.
Yeah.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, no matter who's in office, right?
Amen.
We serve a God who is sovereign. And if you know your God,
Right.
no matter who's in office, he got you.
Right.
So your path is still clear no matter who's in office. So we're getting into uproars about things that, yes, they're necessary, but if you're a child of the Most High God, your thoughts are different and your trust level is on another level, right? And so you don't put your trust in man and whether or not they can lead you, because you don't lead me, right? I'm led by a higher being. And so, you know, those are just some things that we have to put in perspective so that we can calm people down and not necessarily get to this area of tension and stress and anxiety when you serve a God who said, be anxious for nothing,
Yeah.
and who is sovereign.
Yes.
Go ahead and preach.
Come on with the word.
Go ahead and preach. Yeah.
The old folks say, take your shoe off.
If we were on this broadcast. No, I mean, that's good. I think that's so good
yeah.
because a lot of us just focus on this horizontal level, but forget that the vertical still have all the power, right?
Yes.
That regardless of who's in power, right, God still has all the control. That God can still move mountains.
Yes.
God can still do profound things and do great things with common people, right? So yeah, no, that's good. Just remind me of what one of my favorite preachers said, Charles Booth. He said, "I'm not afraid of Donald Trump. Saw him during Strom Thurmond. Saw him through Ronald Reagan." I mean, he just went down this list, and it's like,
Right.
wow,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because the God is still in control, right? Wow.
He is.
So
He is.
yeah, wow. So let's move into talking about survivor's guilt. I think it's really prevalent amongst college students, especially these first generation college students who are in a place, in an area of life where their family have not been able to make it, and you may feel as if you were a betrayer in that moment, right? Because you're somewhere where you're leaving people behind. And, so I'm just curious, how does survivor's guilt impact familial dynamics?
Right. So that's really good in the fact that, and I like the way that you looked at it, because normally survivor's guilt is like somebody who feels really bad about having survived something traumatic, like a plane crash, right? And they were the only ones who survived, and they're like answering the question why. So for you to put that on the term of leaving people behind, we have to put it all in its proper perspective, right? Everybody's not meant to go where you're going. And everybody can't come.
No.
Now, but everybody has the ability to possibly come, but are you going to do the work that it takes to go to the level I'm going to? And so people are in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime.
Yes.
And so we all have to travel that journey about, I might get left behind at this juncture, but life is just so evolving and beautiful in the fact that it's got all these great twists and turns that you may leave me behind at this point, but I could catch up and possibly pass you. And then you got to catch up with me. And so if people just look at it that it's all relative and that we all have the possibilities of reaching these levels, it's just that you got to stay in your lane. And maybe I can't go with you now. It may be later. Or I did what I was supposed to do. I was that vessel for you for you to go on to that next. Communication is key. Like, you know, and I'm here. Now, you may not be able to go to my level, but you always got my ear. You always got my support. If you ever need me, I'm there, right? And so it's all about how you look at leaving somebody behind, right? And so you got to change that. You're not leaving somebody behind. You're just going to a next level, and they serve their purpose.
I think it kind of goes back to perspective. I think sometimes we feel guilty because we always want to take everybody with us, and the reality is everybody cannot go where you're going.
Wow.
And they really don't want to go. What they want you to do is stay where they are.
Yeah, they don't want you to advance.
Right. They don't want you to advance, and they want you to stay there. And that's the harm in it, right? Because a lot of people don't go where they're supposed to go because they don't want to hurt people by leaving them. And I think it's a horrible thing for those people to put that on them and not free them to go and to be what God called them to do and be.
Wow.
And to kind of piggyback off that too, kind of with going on with the topic, hurt people. And we continue to hurt people when we have that mentality. We don't open our perspective to certain things.
And it comes to, right, it wraps around, right? So people use manipulation
Yes.
to get you not to move to the next level, to get you to stay where you are.
Staying in
And then
betrayal.
that's a form of betrayal.
Yes.
By you not letting that person be free to do
Keeping
what
it
God
in
called
bondage.
right in bondage, that is manipulation. And that's a form of betrayal.
Yes.
Yeah, that was full circle.
I know, right?
Like how we did that.
Yeah. That
I
brought
mean,
it home for sure.
Yeah, I mean that was absolutely great right there. I really enjoyed that. Just to delve deeper into it. Are you aware of any like the origins of survivor guilt, right? Of how it came about, and then how it kind of evolved into how you may be seeing it play out in people's lives on today.
I think one important factor to kind of think about too, like if you take it back further and think about like slavery, some people made it and some people didn't. And the people that made it, it's almost as if well, they think that you might be better or whatever the case may be because you're there and I'm still here. I haven't advanced to a further step.
That's good. Yeah.
That is good. No, that is good. I mean, my God. I mean, no, this is some deep and profound stuff. And you're saying some stuff that's really helping not just us to grow, but really people who are online is watching this. I mean, somebody just literally said, right, accountability is major in communication as well.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so that's, thank you all for really, really being here and sharing this great stuff. So, I hear you arguing, right? So we shouldn't necessarily feel guilty for just trying to progress.
Well, doing what God called you to do,
Yeah,
what would you feel guilty about?
yeah.
Because do you feel like everyone have the same opportunities, but some not choosing to take them, or everybody truly don't have the same opportunities?
I think that, that's a multi-layered question, right? Especially in America, right? Where you do have populations of people who aren't afforded as much, but then we got to take that history, right? And we got to look at it and for what it is, because even though certain populations, like we'll just name it, the black community, right? Look what we did with nothing.
Yes.
Right? We are a resilient,
Yes, very resilient.
a resilient race, like resilient on steroids, right? How do you give somebody the intestines of pigs and now it's a delicacy, right, in other countries? So sometimes, even though some people have more access than others, it can cripple or disable them, right? Where they become enabled and they don't necessarily shoot for their dream or their passion because they've been provided so much. So it all depends on the individual as far as what that looks like and what that could mean. But I believe that any person who makes it here on this side, right, then you will call, then you will purpose. And no matter what that looks like, as far as if it was lack, if it was birthed in lack, if it was birthed in trauma, if it was birthed with a lot, if you know the God I know, right, then so what?
Yeah.
Whatever he called you to do, you gonna do it. And so you just might have some trials and you're gonna have some tribulations and you're gonna have to figure some stuff out. But with him, it's gonna get done. And so again, it's how you look at things. If you choose to look at your situation as a negative, it will be a negative. Whether you have a lack of access or you have a lot, and that is your power. That's your superpower about your choice. And we serve a God who choose how you look at any situation, and if you believe, all things are possible to you.
I also want to kind of add to that too. When you think about how much time is in a day, God has already had this appointed time for you. So whether if it might be 4 o'clock, what you do in the time in the meantime is going to determine how fast you get there. So it goes back down to intention. How bad do you really want it?
Yes.
My God.
But I find too that people with lack, there's a fire. It's something about the struggle.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? That puts a fire in people. It makes you creative. It makes you innovative,
Gotta get
right?
to it.
It makes you hungry. And so, how are you going to look at that?
So
So,
it's all
is
about
that
looking at the tools you have and
how
deciding
you
how you want
use
to
them.
utilize them. Yeah.
Make it work. You might not have much in your refrigerator, but you're gonna make a meal.
Might be a little bologna sandwich.
But you're gonna make a meal. Right. You're not gonna be hungry.
right?
Yes, that's good.
Wow, no, that's absolutely great. Yeah, yeah. So we just got to reframe our thinking and reframe how we're looking at it. And matter of fact, because you opened the door to the reframing of your perspective, I kind of want to go to this biblical piece
Go ahead, please do.
On Joseph.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think with Joseph, we focus too much on what God meant for evil. I mean, what people meant for evil, God meant for good, right? But I think there's more to Joseph that we haven't closely read. Joseph is a man of just pure emotion, right? When we look at Joseph, and because before he got to that reframing of the perspective, it was so much emotion built into it. 3 times he was weeping in front of his brothers. Genesis 42:24, Genesis 43:30, Genesis 45:1. He had to leave the room. And in 45:1, it said that all of Egypt could hear him because he just weeping in front of his brothers because his betrayers are in front of him. But I think when you look at Joseph's story, before you even get to the reframing of his mindset, yes, he reframed it, but my God, he went through severe emotion. But also, here's the piece, and going back to grace, here's the piece that we got to be thankful for in Joseph, in this narrative in Genesis, because both parties recognize that God is still with the both of them.
Yes.
Right, when Joseph's brothers was traveling back to their homeland to get the youngest brother that Joseph asked for, and they saw that they had money and stuff like that, the words that they used were, God is still with us. Joseph, when he gets to that final part, after he's faced his betrayer, and then that's when he says, right, what you meant for evil, God meant for good. God is still with the party, with Joseph. And I think when it comes to this betrayer and betrayed relation, recognize that God is not choosing me to only choose you. And God isn't just on my side to then just leave yours, that God is with the both of us.
Yes.
But when you reframe, right, your perspective, then you can kind of start to see, right, as those pit stops that kind of happen, it wasn't meant to take you away. It was all meant to take you and push you to where God is trying to take you to.
Yes. Yes.
But the work to get there was hard.
Yeah.
Emotion. So what do you do, right, to now bring it back to more perspective? What do you do, or practical, what do you do when you're just filled with all this emotion, when you're maybe in front of your betrayer? How do you navigate that, right, when you're sitting down face to face? Because Joseph did it 3 times, and he was a mess, right? And for a lot of us, it's difficult being in front of those people who have done us wrong. How do we navigate a moment like that?
That's a great question. Breathe. Stop holding your breath. Because that breathing will first, allow your body to relax, right? Because when you're in front of your betrayer, your body's probably doing all sorts of things, right? You're probably getting tension all in your body.
Communicating.
Right. And then allow yourself to reset so that you can take some really good time to think before you open your mouth, right? Because a lot of times if you give into those feelings and those emotions, you can actually add, more coal to the fire, right? And so just breathe and just take a moment, right? And like you said, we use those things that y'all mentioned, becoming aware, acknowledging what you're feeling, right? Speaking your truth in those moments in a way that doesn't put people on the defense, right? And so that way you can let the betrayer know, I'm feeling some kind of way, but let's talk about it. Let's communicate. And let's see if we can kind of get over this thing. what you thought was betrayal was misunderstanding.
Yes, yes.
And so that's why you kind of have to step back a little bit before you actually go in.
I was just going to add to that. I think a common thing that we need to do is just actually sit with it first.
Yeah.
Before we kind of go into a room or trying to confront that person, you actually need to sit with it. What exactly, like, and ask yourself a few questions. What is it that I'm feeling? Why am I feeling this way? What is my body doing as a response to me feeling this way? Have those answers to that, and in that way, it'll help you navigate that difficult conversation, so you know what you need to say.
And what do you want the betrayal to know? What point you're trying to get across? So yeah.
I like that. I like just more self-reflection.
Yeah.
Right?
Very
More self-reflection
Yeah.
before you go about a task. Because that's how you, I guess, prevent from taking measures or actions and saying words that you shouldn't
Right.
have
That
said.
you don't mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Words that you may not mean. You're just saying because of how you feel. No, so thank you for that. Just like had try to bring Joseph into this because
Right, yeah.
I think we read his narrative sometimes too much one-sided, but we also
More
don't
surface
think,
level.
more surface level, and then we just read it from that perspective of just that later part, right? What you may have meant for evil, God meant for good, but we don't wrestle with the fact that so many chapters pass by and Joseph may have not had dealt with his emotions.
Right.
Which is why he can be such a wreck, right? When he first sees his brothers.
Yeah.
He went through some things.
Oh my God. And betray more than just his brothers.
Right, exactly.
He was
His
betrayed.
wife.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I mean, his whole life is betrayal.
Right, the guy didn't come back for him. Like, it was just all layers on top of layers. Yes, absolutely.
My God, yeah. So Tara, do you want to start us off in this self-betrayal piece?
Yes.
Because I think that's another side of betrayal.
Yes. So first, just from you guys' perspective, where would you say self-betrayal originated from? Or where had it derived from? What do you think?
That's a good question.
I don't know, so I'm just gonna keep it real. I think that your generation is very creative, and like y'all come up with all these different terms and stuff. Like I'm learning a lot of this myself. Like, I was like, wow, okay.
This generation is very more awakening when it comes to mental health and terminology.
Absolutely. And y'all use terminology a lot, and I love it, but it's got to be based on accuracy, right? Y'all throw out stuff like narcissism,
yes,
gaslight, all these different things, but it's not necessarily used in the right context. So I don't know. Like, I think self-betrayal could have started with Caleb. In the garden. I mean, that could be the first thing. Well, not necessarily self-betrayal, but betrayal, right? And so I don't really know the original origins of self-betrayal, self-sabotage, but I do know that it can be layered. It could come from a lot of things about why we do self-imposed things, right? It could be a history of trauma. It could be a history of abandonment. It could be pain, hurt, all kinds of things that causes us to hurt ourselves in so many different ways, not necessarily physically. And so the origin, I can't answer to the origin of that, but I do know that it's something that we all have found ourselves doing when we're not in good spaces mentally.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess that would go into just the next question, far as what causes us to betray ourselves. Do you have any intake on that?
I would like to say something that might cause you to betray yourself would be not being truly vulnerable and really identifying what it is or where it is that you want to go. And because of that, it may cause you to be stagnant.
So like the lack of self. Okay. Is like the first sign of betraying yourself.
Well, I don't know if that's necessarily fair, right? But I think a lot of times when you don't know who you are,
You cheat yourself.
right, and you you don't feel confident in yourself, right? And so you will get anxious, try to control an outcome, and actually arrive someplace that you didn't need to go or didn't need to do, and you wind up hurting yourself because instead of just figuring out who you are, what is it you want, what do you deserve, what are you worthy of, and hopefully when you have that data, you won't necessarily
Yeah.
but we hurt ourselves when we don't know ourselves.
Yeah.
And we hurt ourselves when we don't love ourselves. Right? And so you got to have love for self first
Yeah.
for you not to do those things that will hurt yourself.
Okay, that's good.
Wow. 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 We got to love ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. And before you had thought, I was just thinking, I knew you was going to go there.
You did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because I mean, I can't get into your mind.
Right?
At a certain thought, you kind of thought, I do think, right, there is a level of self-love that we have to have for ourselves in order to not perform in certain actions that will endanger ourselves.
And that takes time.
It does. And it starts with your parents, right? Giving you that agency to just really be who God called you to be. Whatever is that thing that is on the inside of you, to nurture that, right?
Nurture
And
that inner
to
child.
and to encourage it, and then to challenge it, right? To let it kind of do what it's going to do. Because when you start letting your child do and be who they're called to be at a young age, it'll build their confidence, right? And then it'll teach them, when you're more confident, you like yourself more, you walk into, like, you're not going to do anything to hurt yourself. You kind of like you. And so, and when everybody is doing that for you,
Oh
yeah,
It's hard.
right? You grow in that, right? But it starts young. And so unfortunately what's happening is you got a lot of our young adults who are searching for that, who are looking for that and needing that. And that's where we come in. That's where the village comes in, where we start helping people to identify those things and tapping in and helping them to tap into what that is and building them up and telling them that they're worthy and that they're capable and that they're able, right? And then helping them to foster and get that love back for themselves.
Yes.
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
Like y'all are doing at CAYA. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Listen, we all about trying to get you to grow and develop in your humanity, but to really deal with some things that you may have never dealt with before. In essence, we want you to love yourself, right? And that's why. That's what's purpose of this CAYA. That's been the purpose of every CAYA we've done so far. We want you to know that you in yourself, you are valuable. You are worthy. You deserve every door that God is going to open for you. And don't you dare doubt it. Don't you dare try to downplay the importance of how God views you. Because we are and you are all wondrously, words, and beautifully made.
That's right.
So just don't downplay your self-worth and your self-love. Because when nobody else will hug you, hug yourself and love yourself. Call your own self beautiful.
That's right.
And treat yourself the best way that you can treat yourself. That's why after this, I'm going home to get on my game. I'm going to love myself just playing the game. So as we are moving through this topic, and we're at the last couple of minutes, and we kind of want some, to walk away with some more strategies of how we can deal with this. We would love for everybody to go and get a therapist right after this. I have one at the direction of Pastor. He instructed me to get one. He said, if you're going to be in this ministry and do it at a high level full time, you need a therapist. Yes. So I went and got a therapist. And I'm finding out stuff about myself I never knew.
Yes. I have one as well. I recommend truly. And I know the black community have this stigma where black people don't get therapy and all of that, or church, just go to church, just pray about it. But I'm a believer in you can combine the two, and I'm a believer that God will lead you to people that can assist you. You can utilize all of the tools that's out there for you. So I definitely recommend anyone to seek therapy.
Yeah.
And if you don't have access to therapy, do your research. Like there's Monarch, there is Mental Health of the Americas. They now have free or slide and scale sessions that people can be a part of. You have NAMI that does groups with family. I believe Village Heartbeat.
Village Heartbeat, yeah. We offer, if you connect with us, we can connect you to a therapist, and we can offer you up to 5 free sessions.
Yeah.
So there's resources out there for people who believe that there's no access, right? And then you can also start with your local doctor, your doctor's office, because a lot of times people don't know where to go. So if you don't know where to go or you don't have support, go to your primary care physician, because now your doctors should be giving you a depression assessment and an anxiety assessment, and they should have some resources to at least direct you for a referral. And also, you can go to psychologytoday.com. You can put in your insurance, you can put in your Medicaid, you can put in all different kind of parameters to find somebody that you feel you would be a good fit with.
No, I like that. I like that. Thank you for that. So I would ask, so black men, we're some the most people who we wait until things get worse before we go and seek the help. How do we kind of, Deja, how do we kind of overcome our, this resistance to then moving past, be able to take advantage of some of those resources that you just mentioned?
Be honest with yourself. Be honest about where you are, and kind of going back to what you said, like I know there's this stigma that, black men may not necessarily want to get help or things of that nature. God has already ordained certain people to be in these seats and in these positions to help you, connect you to whatever resources that you may need, and understanding that even with finding a therapist, yeah, sometimes the first fit may not be a good fit, but also don't cheat yourself and continue to go at it and find that therapist, because there is a therapist that is for you that can help you address those issues that you may be going through and things of that nature, and then help you get you to a better self. Again, what you do in the now determines what you're going to get to the next level.
Yeah. Wow. So last question as we're getting ready to set up out of here. So what would you all say are healthy coping mechanisms with betrayal?
So anything that helps you to manage your day and situations, those are all coping skills. So think about things that make you feel empowered. I believe in mindfulness and centeredness work. I believe in, starting your day with intentionality. Whether that's through prayer, devotion, yoga, stretching, or a good cup of coffee on your back deck, watching the sunrise, and just getting still, right? Sometimes just being still and giving you that time to determine the flow of your day. You set that, right? Don't just jump up and get up. Be intentional about how you start your day. And then I tell people to find 3 new things throughout their day to be grateful for, right? What is that doing? And there's some science behind that too. You're changing the way you teach yourself how to look at things. And they can be new by using your circumstances. So I give people the example of, I'm horrible, right? I'm always coping when I'm on the road. And so, but if somebody cuts me off, instead of giving into that, I'm like, thank you, Lord, for my angels protecting me, that I'm going to get home safe. What did I just do? I used that circumstance to find a way to be grateful. What does that do? It trains your brain and your mind to be able to see the other side of things, right? So that's great training that you can do from the start of your day throughout your day that will help you manage things, because really what you're doing around betrayal is just managing your emotion in the moment that you have to meet with that person. And so, like, I know y'all had this on there, it's probably going to be part 2, but that's where emotional intelligence comes in, right? Being able to manage your emotions in different situations. And so those tools will help you to learn how to start managing that.
Wow.
I also want to add to that too, another component, it kind of coincides with what you're saying, just expressing and exploring gratitude. It's a simple word, but we try to extend it to everybody else, but we never really give it to ourselves. So the same thing that you would administer and give to everybody else, pour that same thing back into yourself.
Right.
Wow.
That's good.
Clergy, we some of the most people that take care of everybody else. We want to take care of ourselves. Well, Tiara, do you have any final parting words?
No, I'm good.
Final question?
I love the way it's wrapped up.
Yeah, this has been absolutely great, fam. We absolutely hope that you all have enjoyed this month's Kaya Coping with Betrayal.
Yes.
I want to thank publicly Deja Austin and Mrs. Felice Hightower Britt for taking time, two brilliant therapists, for taking time out of their own day, for coming and to sowing into us, the young adults and congregation of St. Paul Baptist Church, and all of you watching on our various social media platforms. We pray that you have felt like this has been helpful, renewing, impactful for your living, but help you to go out and to live the life that God is trying to push you towards, because you deserve it. And you deserve to love yourself. And listen, fam, we'll see you all next month for another Kaya. See you all again on the last Wednesday. But until then, I'm your host, Reverend Eric Edwards, and it's my joy to be with you all this evening. And that's it.